So we'll go ahead and begin to prep the call. We have about 4 minutes left before everyone needs to come in, but if you would like to grab some water, make your final preps, now is the time. And then Rosaleni, on your side, if you can, just when you feel like the temperature is ready to start the call, I guess we'll go from there.
So Steve, should I give you host?
If we're now live streaming, yeah, that's good.
Yes, yeah. So I'm gonna go back to that, and then because there are quite a few people in the room.
Yeah. So we can go ahead and let everyone.
Just make me co-host. So you are now host.
Yeah, thanks. I'm gonna also go ahead and bring everyone into the room if we have no other objections or no final questions. All right, awesome.
All the best.
Always.
Fighting.
Fighting, yes.
It's gonna be amazing. I'm excited.
Okay.
How is Jeff gonna join us?
Yes, he is. I better text him.
Welcome to the call, everyone. We're gonna give it a couple minutes to just get started.
So Steve, you're managing Mute All, right?
Yes, yes.
Hello.
Hello.
Good morning, sunshines.
You can see me? Hello, I'm Maliki from Malaysia.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Oh,
hello.
Good
Hi.
evening. On that side, it's good evening.
Good morning, Jean from Montreal.
Good morning, John. Thanks for joining us.
Hi.
Oh, Xiaoning is also on with us now.
Awesome. I saw that.
Good morning, youth representatives. It's Swati.
Good morning,
Swati.
Morning. Let Jeff know.
Jeff is now in as well. Xiaoning is
Hello.
also in as well.
It's
Good
a
morning.
Hello.
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 Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good evening from
Good
Kuala Lumpur.
morning, guys.
Good morning from New York, New York.
Good morning.
Good evening from Indonesia.
Hello.
Welcome.
Evening.
Good afternoon from Norway.
Welcome.
Thank you, thank you.
Good afternoon from Senegal.
Good afternoon. I'm Lola Balogun from Nigeria.
Good evening from Indonesia.
Good afternoon from Saudi Arabia.
Good morning.
Good evening from Indonesia.
I'm from America.
Good morning from New York.
Good morning from Colombia.
Nice.
Good morning from US.
Good morning from Philadelphia.
Good morning from Connecticut.
Good afternoon from Botswana.
Good morning from Colombia.
Wow, I'm the only one still in bed.
Hi. Evening from Indonesia.
Hi, Salish from India.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello. Good morning from Brazil.
Hi. Good evening from Indonesia.
Hi, I'm Meryl from Kenya. Good afternoon.
Hi. Good evening from Indonesia.
Hello, everyone. Lamborghini in the building.
Lamborghini, my boy.
Shout out to Lamborghini.
Our favorite artist.
I'm good.
Hi, guys.
Hi, everyone. This is Juan from Colombia. I just want to remind everybody we are live on Facebook as well, so you are free to also share it in your Facebook profile. Did you see you?
Thank you.
Morning, everyone. We have basically every corner of the world covered.
Yeah.
We're just going to wait a couple more moments to have the last friends join on.
Hi, everyone. This is Kennedy from Kenya.
Hey.
Hello,
Welcome,
Kennedy.
Hi.
Hakuna Matata.
Thank you.
Hakuna Matata.
Thank
Hello,
you.
everyone. This is Andrew from Uganda.
Yeah, Uganda.
Hello, everyone. This is Dami from Nigeria.
Hello,
everyone.
Demi.
This is Eduardo. I'm from Brazil.
Hello, everyone. This is Matas from Dubai.
Hey guys. Hi everyone. My name is Anita. I'm from Moscow, Russia. Nice to see you and hear you.
Nice to meet you too.
Hello. Nice to meet you too.
Hello, everyone. My name is Francisco. I'm from Sierra Leone, but I'm currently staying in New York.
Nice. Welcome.
Hey, my name is Coyote. I'm from Nigeria, but I'm currently based in DC.
Welcome. We reached 100. All right.
How do y'all get to see it on Facebook to send it to somebody to watch?
There is a link on the UNDGC Facebook. It should be there. Maybe you could get someone to insert the link in the chat. Maybe someone can support me in that.
It's already there.
It's
There's
already
quite a
there.
few.
Okay, let me
Yeah.
Yeah, it's there a few times.
In the WhatsApp chat?
No, it's right in the here in the chat.
The Zoom one. Yeah.
Steve, we have an issue with capacity. We're over 100 and we need Howard to be the host.
It's already there.
Good to see Mr. Jeff.
The WhatsApp chat?
Hey,
Change teams to Howard. We should be able to increase now.
We need Howard to be the host.
Just bear with us a couple more moments, friends, to try to increase capacity. Yeah, if you all mute your phones, we're going to have a chance to all say good morning later. Just give us 1 second as we figure these things out. But please, let's get this chat going. I'm seeing Nepal, Virginia, where else? Nigeria in the house, in the chat here.
Indonesia.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Dubai.
Yeah.
Sierra Leone as well.
Sierra Leone. Oh, wait till Hawa finds out.
Shout out to Sierra Leone. Una kushe, kushe.
Yo, di mami.
Yeah.
How everything? We're live again this morning. United Nations. Since we're not able to meet in person, so we're gonna do the Zoom call.
Just give us one more moment, friends. Thank you so much. Awesome. So good morning, good evening, good afternoon. If we can all take a second now to unmute our phones and we can all just shout good morning each other at the count of 3. You ready? 1, 2, 3. Good
morning.
Morning.
Bonjour.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey.
Morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Bonjour.
Morning.
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Good morning, guys.
Hola.
All right. If you can
Good
all
morning.
if we all mute our microphones, we can hear everyone clear and it'd be a lot
Morning.
easier just to hear our thing. So let's get the show started. My name is Roslenu Viñas, and I'm the chair of the Department of Global Communications Youth Civil Society Steering Committee. Thank you so much for joining today for our first community call. With the state of the world overwhelmed by confusion and challenges, yet with glimmerings of hope that arise from communities all around the world, the Youth Civil Society program thought it would be timely for us to come together and to share what is in our hearts and our minds and lean on the complexity, the diversity, and the resilience present in youth. I'm not sure what you have all seen and heard from friends or from social media, but I, for one, in despite of the times of these challenges, am focusing on how, even in the most trying of times, people are coming together to show support and ensure that no one is feeling too lonely and to really spread the love in these times of this physical social distancing. We have an impressive lineup of speakers for you today from all parts of the world, representing a vast array of communities and sharing with us some of their challenges or tips on how to make #stay home more bearable. First, we're going to listen to some stories from the folks on the ground doing the work, a panel led by Steve Chu from the Buddhist Tzu Chi Foundation. Then we'll touch on some regional updates from youth-led COVID-19 actions. After hearing from our esteemed speakers, a pop-up will appear on your screen asking you to join a pre-assigned breakout room. In these spaces, you'll have a chance to share your thoughts and bounce ideas from one another. Then at the end of the call, if you're feeling a little bit stiff and need a little bit of joy in your life, please join us for a dance breakout room led by the very best Aishu Narasimha Devara from Medical Women's International Association. In the wake of a lot of misinformation, the United Nations and partners have created various resources to help you stay accurately informed, including the UN DGC Civil Society Unit has a page on COVID-19, the World Health Organization, offices of the Secretary General on Youth, and UNICEF have all created platforms that really support each other and giving you the best information. Those links will be provided in the chat at some point throughout the conversation and also at the end. But first, a word from Jeff Brez, the Chief of the Civil Society Unit and Advocacy and Special Events from DGC, with whom, without his support, this event would not be possible. Hey, Jeff, good morning.
Hey, good morning. Thank you so much, Rosaleni, and thank all of you from all over the world for joining. We are so pleased and so moved. Thank you so much. And thank you to the Youth Steering Committee for organizing this event. It's going to be amazing. And I'm going to be as brief as possible because I want to listen and learn from you. That's the whole point of this, and so that you can learn from each other. And thank you, of course, to my team for all the work in putting this together, working with you. You know, we're all here because the United Nations believes in youth, and we need you right now more than ever. We need each other. You know, we're facing an unprecedented crisis, the world together, that we have not faced the likes of this in decades. So why are we here? You know, the UN does have a UN youth strategy, and this strategy acknowledges young people's potential to make positive contributions as agents of change, as leaders and as partners for the UN. So that's what my team focuses on. The Civil Society Unit in the Department of Global Communications works with youth regularly. We issue grounds passes to youth so that youth can have predictable access to the United Nations and participate in meetings and learn and share their experiences and contribute. And this event is part of our approach. Part of that strategy on youth of the United Nations points to youth as a solutions catalyst. And I think now is a moment where we really need the new ideas and the innovative power of youth to identify solutions to respond to this crisis in so many ways. You know, we need to flatten the curve. We need to protect ourselves. We need to protect others. We need to show solidarity. And I know that youth are doing amazing things around the world, and I'm really looking forward to hearing your ideas. So please be active and proactive and in this global response. And let's flatten the curve together. So one thing I also wanted to mention before I sign off and just put myself into listening mode is that today is World Autism Awareness Day. Also my team is very involved in our sort of event and observance for World Autism Awareness Day every year. And our approach to autism awareness is based in the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. And this year, obviously, we're facing COVID-19, and in this public health crisis, the Secretary General issued a very, very important and strong statement. So his message is highlighting that persons with autism have the right to self-determination. So he's reminding us all. They have the right to self-determination, independence, and autonomy. They have the right to education and employment on an equal basis with others. And the current breakdown of vital support systems and networks as a result of the coronavirus is making it more difficult for many persons with autism to exercise their rights, their human rights. So we must all take a moment today to think and moving forward, make sure that this disruption caused by the emergency does not result in rollbacks of the rights of persons with autism. They must not face discrimination when seeking medical care. They must not lose support systems required to remain in their homes and their communities through this time of crisis or any time of crisis, and they must not face the prospect of being institutionalized by force. Many of us are experiencing online teaching. Keep in mind that students on the spectrum, students with autism and with non-standard ways of learning may be at a disadvantage. We have to take that into consideration, make sure they can access the learning. The same applies to the workplace. So many, and all of the UN staff, or most of us, are working remotely. We have to make sure that people with autism can also work remotely. So I'm going to wrap up with a quick ask to you. And my ask is that maybe take a look on your social media feeds at the hashtag autism awareness. So autism awareness. If you can make the time today, read the Secretary General's statement. It's less than a page. It would take you about 2 minutes. Think about it and share your thoughts. I don't know how many people are on this virtual event, but if all of us tweeted, we could reach potentially millions of people. So that's my request to you. The hashtag is autism awareness, and I'll leave it at that. So thank you all so much for joining. The United Nations and the Department of Global Communications is absolutely committed to working together with young people and with you on the response to COVID-19. I'm going to stay and listen, as I said, and thank you to all the speakers to come, and over to Steve Chu. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jeff, for your remarks. And we're really grateful for everyone being here to gather in this very strange and tumultuous time to reflect together on what is happening with the COVID crisis and how youth are really responding in innovative ways to this new situation, rather than just reacting to our tragedy and shared struggle, but to really find ways to rise above these situations and create new impacts that will have long-lasting waves of benefits to our broader communities, whether that's building these digital communities that we're seeing emerge and pop up in these spaces, to looking at how this COVID-19 crisis links to other great issues like climate change. So right now we're going into a segment on inviting some of these prominent youth leaders and organizations to share their experiences, stories, and challenges that they've been facing in responding to COVID-19, starting with Suji Cruz-Everts, who is the co-founder and president of the Tommy Foundation, who will give that perspective that Jeff was speaking to of persons with autism and what has been happening within the Tommy Foundation and within her own family's life. Following with, we have Justin Pagan, who's going to be speaking from Mount Sinai Hospital's perspective as a patient care associate, looking at what healthcare workers are experiencing as youth in this system, having to be called to respond to this crisis. And then looking at, from the private sector, what are young entrepreneurs doing, with Stephanie Hemmelberg, who's the founder of Benak Co., looking at what new strategies young people are using within the private sector to help support our emerging crisis. And then finally wrapping it up with this idea of how are we learning and responding to this COVID-19 crisis, and how does that parallel with the climate emergency that we have right now, and what are some shared experiences that can really move our movements forward collectively. So with that, I'll pass it to Suji to get us started, and then we'll kind of like go through the various slides along the way. Also make a note that if you have any questions, we're going to be having a breakout room session later on, but that you can also directly type your questions into the chat room, and we'll have our speakers also interact with you in the chat room as well. And with that, I'll pass it over to Suji.
I just unmuted myself, so hopefully that works. Hi, everyone. I'm from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So in case anyone else is from PA, welcome. I am the president and co-founder of the Tommy Foundation for Autism and Related Conditions. So as Jeffrey mentioned, today is World Autism Awareness Day. Some of the ways that this is all started to affect us, our walk actually is always in May because it's nicer weather, but usually the very beginning of May. And one of the biggest ways that that just got changed is that we can't have it. So we usually have well over 1,000 people that attend our local event. And this year we're not going to be able to obviously have that since we can't have events that big. So one of the things that we're doing right now is trying to mobilize our families to really keep communication going, do things like this, also share YouTube videos, share experiences. We have an online support page that we have that is just for families, that is secret on Facebook, so people can share some of the things and the struggles that they've been going through. As Jeffrey mentioned, one of the things that's really concerning us right now is as schools are transitioning to more remote learning for individuals that, for example, are like my son, who are nonverbal. Now he's older, so he's not in the school system anymore. But individuals that are like that, something like remote learning is really hard, especially when those people that are there from their education to help them with their day-to-day life aren't able to come, and they're not considered essential. So they're not being able to work with them. So that's been a big struggle. It's also just a big struggle because everybody's online at the exact same time. So things like this, we might see that people can't log in at a certain time, and it's causing just issues with disparity in terms of, getting that education. But we are trying as much as possible to get people to just not feel so isolated. One of the other things that we're seeing is families that maybe the parent is also on the spectrum and they're struggling with, I'm used to my routine, I need routine. And then I have kids that also need their routine and I don't want to freak them out, but I'm also freaking out. So, trying to keep people just calm and being able to just take it a day at a time as this whole crisis happens. And This has been really challenging, but we're trying to rise to the challenge as much as possible. Yeah. But it is World Autism Awareness Day, so we are going to make sure that we tell everybody to hashtag autism awareness. And then we have our own hashtag, which is Edge of Autism as well, that we've been using. So, just trying to get the message out there as much as possible.
Thank you, Suji. I think really when we look at these struggles that we're facing right now within our collective society, we're seeing this question of what is essential be raised so much, right? And what is of value and who is this essential worker? And it all compounds into this perception of what do we deem to be important? And yes, one of our most key essentials is our own health. And so I'm really excited that Justin will be sharing next from the perspective of healthcare workers, but also thinking about where are the gaps that we've created as a society and how can we use this moment to really point to those gaps? And I think World Autism Awareness Day is a beautiful way for us to use this moment to also point to this gap that persons with disabilities, particularly people with autism, have a gap within our social support structures that when we rebuild from this COVID crisis, we must address even stronger to ensure that we don't create these perpetuating cycles of disempowerment. So with that, I'll now pass it to Justin.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Justin Pagan. I'm a patient care associate at Mount Sinai Hospital. So pretty much my responsibilities entail checking the vitals, drawing the labs, feeding, bathing, changing the sheets, and even just providing quality patient care to the patients, which includes just having a basic conversation in case they're feeling alone or missing their family, especially late at night where I work the night shift. Pretty much, I've been on a COVID unit for the past month, and I'm also actually still new to the position. So while I was adjusting to the position itself, sort of got thrusted into the COVID situation. And since then, it's just sort of been adjusting to something new every time I go into the shift. And it first was dealing with patients who were under investigation, who weren't confirmed, to suddenly patients now are confirmed and now they're doubling up. And so we had to learn how to gown up. We had to learn when to go into the room because, as we know, there's a supply crisis of PPE. And so one of the things that we've been dealing with, which has sort of been a struggle for me personally, is the drop in quality patient care, because we have to be sort of decisive when we go into the room because we can't constantly go in and out of each room. And so the sad part is they don't want us spending more than 10, 20 minutes, but sometimes we could spend an hour up to an hour and a half within each room. And that could be, again, drawing the labs, checking the vitals. If something happens, we are now, the staff, the nursing staff are the people who do everything in that room. We take out the linen, we throw out the trash, we clean the floors, we do everything to basically minimize as much contact as we can. And so the main challenge has been adjusting to the sort of rapid pace as new things come out about the virus and having to develop new skills and techniques on the fly to basically do what we can. And the other challenge has been, because I'm on a COVID unit, I've been having to self-quarantine and I can't really go support my family members and other people as much as I would want to. And that's pretty much what the main struggle has been, on top of the underlying fear that eventually gear may run out. It's definitely one of those things it kind of feels like it's not really talked about. We're just trying to do it day by day, but we know the day will come when eventually there will be a shortage.
Thank you, Justin, for sharing. I think really between all of us right now, there is that fear of scarcity. And there's been so many good movements around the nation and around the world. We're seeing countries like Mozambique and China send PPE to the United States now. And this sort of global solidarity is something that we need in this moment in order to move forward. Because you're right, we are taking it day by day. And it's something that we see at CIGI within our own hospital workers as well, where we're seeing that we have enough for this moment, but moving forward 10, 20 days, we don't know how long this crisis will last, and we definitely don't have those supplies. So relying on this global partnership network that we have has been instrumental in trying to keep our own administrators and our own staff members safe. And so similarly, I think looking forward and moving forward, we as this youth community, we must find ways to address not just the scarcity, but that underlying fear that exists. How can we keep ourselves stable so that we can go back into the next day and still feel calm and grounded? With that, I'll now turn to Stephanie, who's doing some wonderful work with the NOCCO to share with us some perspectives on her front.
So, hello everyone. I hope everyone is safe and they already washed their hands. So, let me share with you a little bit about what's happening in the private sector and how are we trying to build each other up, but also, try to contribute to society. So the three main things are community, solidarity, and strategy. We are basically responsible for two big things, one of them being job supplies. So we are responsible to try to keep as many jobs as we can so people don't actually lose, their income and we don't end up with a bigger problem that we started with. But the also, like a big one is how can we help our community with our already installed resources? Meaning if we already have a machine, a laser machine that cuts off leather or it cuts off plastic, how can we use that in service without, jeopardizing our production that even though at this time is very, very low, how can we put that to service? And that would be a very important question that we all have to ask ourselves. Whatever we have, how can we put that off to service? So the main thing I just wanted to communicate today is that yes, we're staying at home, we're working from home, and that also requires, a lot of education of how to do it. So from Binashco, what we're trying to do is trying to teach other companies, because this was already the way we worked, how to work remotely. In our country, this kind of jobs are not that usual. We have more the 8 to 5 kind of office work. So what we are trying to do is being an advocate for working at home, how to measure productivity, how to be resourceful, and how to be creative from your workspace. And that way we're trying to preserve more jobs and people don't, go into scarcity, especially for basic needs such as food and whatnot. For the medical sector, what we're trying to do is share our patents and share all our ideas for free. And we have created some very interesting spaces in Slack and Reddit where people have been uploading their ideas for respirators, for masks, and all these sort of things that we can all create a small community to actually be able to provide those sort of things. Cost free or just covering the cost of production. So from the entrepreneur side, I think we are not only like hoping for the best economically wise, but also trying to see how we can shorten out this time and the economic fall down and all of this is not going to be as hurtful for all of us. So my main thing for all entrepreneurs out there is first, and our first priority needs to be to keep the jobs we are already supplying and pay our employees, try to not shorten things that much, and be creative. The working from home does face some interesting challenges, but we also do have more time. I'm sure most of you have realized that working from home, you usually work more, and that's just because you are not trained to do so. So please, if you're having trouble, to incorporate this kind of new modality of work in your company, we're more than willing to help. And just be aware of the important role small businesses play in Latin America, especially small companies. And by small companies, I mean like that they have 10 or 15 employees, provide 80% of jobs. So it's a huge economical responsibility, and we give 30% of the GDP locally. So just be aware of your impact, be aware of the jobs you're able to supply. Right now, being an entrepreneur is not a path of life, it's a responsibility. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Really, I think if there's something that I took away from your reflections, it's this notion that we in this moment, because we collectively see this COVID-19 as a crisis, we're finding new ways to unlock existing resources, right? Whether those are open source patents or the using private sector resources to mobilize for social good. There's so many things that are coming forth because we know we need to overcome this moment in order to survive.
Yes, economically and from the resources side. So it's both things. It's a very fine line that we need to keep. And of course, working a strategy from this point forward, because every business needs to have a digital transformation at this point. So we're able to keep the jobs for the people that works for us and provide for their families. So
Definitely.
yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. And I'm so excited to hear that Banako is helping those other small businesses transform into this more digital economy and skill up to that level.
We're really hoping to get there. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. So I think in that spirit of utilizing existing resources to address a crisis, I think there's so much we can learn from COVID and apply to our climate emergency. And there's such a stark difference between our response with the climate emergency and COVID, right? If you look at mobilization speeds, the sense of urgency for COVID-19 is so immediate. And whereas with the climate emergency, we find that there's a lack of this political will that is plagued us for so many years. And so I think there's a lot that we can take away from how we're responding to COVID-19 and apply that to our climate emergency. So I'm really excited that we have Agnes Hall from 350 to share with us some of the work that 350 is doing right now with Just Recovery. What is Just Recovery and what does that look like for our response to COVID-19 and in extension to our climate emergency? So I'll pass it to Agnes now.
Hello, and thank you very much for having me today. Really enjoying hearing from other people. So we have started responding to COVID-19 now with a campaigning response, and we're calling it at the moment Just Recovery. Would you mind going on to the next slide? Thanks. So when this emergency kicked off, we had to regroup internally in 350, and 350, I don't know how familiar you all are with it, but it's a climate focused organization. And so, we do have rapid response campaigning protocols in place to do campaigning that is responding to crisis moments. But what we never anticipated is a truly global crisis where people are affected everywhere. And I'm sure this is the case for many NGOs have sort of had a moment of like, wow, this is the word of the week or the word of the month, unprecedented. So we came together and we thought, what can we do? And we sort of thought, well, the first and foremost, we need to think about how we can offer solidarity and support to communities and people who are struggling with this virus, because the way that people are experiencing COVID-19 is very different the world over, depending on your geopolitical context. So that's something to really bear in mind, that many constituencies of people might not be in a position to do any campaigning and could just really benefit from direct support. So we first and foremost wanted to put out resources and share resources, not necessarily from 350, and amplify stories that would be of use to people. But we also wanted to start thinking and planning for what we could ask of governments and how we could think about, making sure that we keep an eye on the climate agenda and that we don't lose sight of that, and that we also mobilize and engage with communities that are able to campaign at this time. And to think about, what does that look like with the movement? So we started to think about that and think about how we could move quickly, because we didn't want to have a situation where during this crisis, policies are pushed through that aren't good for the climate, in a way where the world is rightly and understandably distracted by, or not even distracted, but much taken up with this global pandemic, that, policies, etc., don't get pushed through. So we wanted to see how we could keep an eye on it and make sure that we had global demands that would, work for the movement more broadly, and also that, fit for different country contexts and that are regionally adaptable. And that we use this moment to really strengthen our way forward for after and what follows this global pandemic. If you go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So what we came up with are some just recovery principles, and it's actually quite hard to see on this slide, so apologies. But I'll read them out from something I've got in front of me. We came up with these 5 principles, which I'll run through in a second. And we did that, the Sierra Club in the US had come up with these 5 principles for the US context. And we said to them, hey, do you mind if we make these global? And we, you know, ask organizations to sign on to them, and then we can sort of put them forward as a unified movement. And they said, sure, being the lovely people that they are. And so far, we've managed to get 406 organizations to sign on to these principles. And what we did was we put these principles into the Financial Times in order to make sure that when the global elites opened their Financial Times newspapers, it was in the international edition, they were greeted with a full page around the 5 principles of what we think a just recovery should involve. And, you know, to say that these demands can be ignored, and through organising and people power, we want to make them happen. So the responses, every level must uphold these 5 principles is what we're saying. And the first is to put people's health first with no exceptions, to provide economic relief directly to the people, to help our workers and communities and not corporate executives, and to create resilience for future crises. And the 5th one is to build solidarity and community across borders. And so those are our 5 sort of key principles. And as I say, we managed to get those out relatively quickly with much support from the movement, which is great. Next slide, please. And yes, I can provide a JPEG of that for sure. So in terms of, and because I've only got 5 minutes, I'm sorry, I don't want to overrun. Yeah, this is such an interesting topic to me. I'd love to have like a big conversation with everyone, but we can maybe do that offline. So I wanted to step into what we can do now, what we can do next, and you know, if you're interested in taking part, that would be great. So I wanted to point out some things to you. So the first is check out our resources. We have some organising resources around coronavirus that sort of talks about social solidarity in a time of crisis and how we can organise while this pandemic goes on. Next slide, please. And I'll share the URLs after as well. There's also a sign-up mechanism that you can also show your support for the Just Recovery principles. And you know, they're clearly outlined on this slide, probably better than the one that the Financial Times showed. Next slide, please. And there's a survey as well. We have the strikes coming up in April, and I'm sure many of you are involved in the global strikes. And of course, it's been much disrupted by the pandemic. So we're looking at how, you know, we're looking at shifting our plans around and adjusting them, which is what the Just Recovery work is about. It's like, how do we carry on with pursuing our agenda and keeping on campaigning, but really bearing in mind this new context that we're all living in and working in. So we're putting out a survey at the moment, asking, you know, what do you need, basically, how can we support you at this time? And you can access all of this information, by the way, through the globalclimatestrike.net URL. So yeah, if you go to that website, you can check it out. Next slide, please. And we also have, I know this is a time for trainings and webinars quite a lot across the board. So we're joining in with the webinar fad. But you know, we do a lot of online trainings as it is as 350, because we work remotely anyway. So we also have quite a lot of resources on how to do online working. So if you check out trainings.350.org, there's quite a lot of resources on there. But we also will have some more specific trainings upcoming around the time of the strikes in late April. So yeah, do check that out. And we also have an Instagram account and Facebook and Twitter, etc. So do follow us if you'd like more information. And that's me done. Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks, Agnes, for your reflections. And definitely, I think I love this highline first bullet point of creative actions in a time of COVID-19. right? Like we're really all looking to find new ways of being and working together. And I'm so grateful that everyone's on this call with us today because this is our small little digital community, right? And to be together in this way and in this space is so beautiful, and to hear everyone's reflections. I think moving forward, how we respond within the climate context is really one of ensuring there's no stagnation, ensuring that there's no sneaky fossil fuel bills being snuck into COVID-19 relief packages, and pointing to those things and saying that this should not happen. So now with all of that said, we're now going to bring it to the national and regional contexts. I'm now going to pass the mic back over to Roseleni, who will take us to our regional updates on youth-led COVID-19 actions.
Thank you so much, Steve, and all the other speakers. I've been looking down because I'm frantically writing notes about all the great initiatives and what people are up to. But we're now shifting up to some more regional updates. First, we're going to have Dr. Mohammed Ali Siddiqui, physician and researcher for Doctors Without Borders, representing the North American aspect from New York. Then we're going to have Joanna Schwartz from DMUN from Germany, representing Europe. Then we're going to have Joyce Lee, founder of Between from Singapore, and Jiaoning Liu, founder of Viva la Vida from China. They're representing the Asia and the Pacific perspective. And we're going to have Mohammed Baghriba from Call of Culture, representing the Middle East from Saudi Arabia. And we're going to finish off with Olumide Idowu, co-founder and CEO of International Climate Change Development Initiative in Nigeria, representing the African perspective. So if I could pass it over to Dr. Mohammed Siddiqui, give us your thoughts.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, I hope everyone is doing good. I hope everyone is feeling great, staying healthy and staying safe. Before I start talking, I want to thank DGC for organizing this call and allowing us this platform to be able to share our insights with everybody else across the world. A couple of things that I wanted to talk about, like I do work with Doctors Without Borders, and I could talk about what is it that we're actually involved in, but I'd rather do this as a more informative sort of a session because knowledge is power, and as long as we disseminate information, I think that's more pertinent right now than actually talking about what's going on otherwise. Everyone's already heard about how social distancing and hygiene is very important. I won't spend my time here very much, but I just want to hit on it that social distancing, because of density, is extremely important. As long as we spread out the density, the transmission should go down. And I can't stress this enough. That's why everyone should stay home. That's why everyone should keep a safe distance. Hygiene, wash your hands, and wash your hands. In another case, if you guys can invest in gloves, I know it's kind of hard right now because the resources are sort of limited, but if you can get your hands on that, it certainly makes it easier for people that are actually working in such essential working groups. Another thing I want to talk about is mask prevention. N95s is something that healthcare workers use. We do have a shortage of masks at the moment, so I don't preach that everyone should buy an N95 at the moment. But even household masks, as long as they're not cotton, even surgical masks do the job of containment to the patient that actually has the virus currently or is a carrier. I think we have a speaker here from Germany next, and I want to hear what their insights are, because in Germany, they have some of the highest per capita in cases, very similar to the United States. I'm from New York. We're the epicenter of COVID-19 at the moment. However, our mortality rates are much higher than the German ones. Upon doing some research, I found that it's perhaps because of Germany implementing using masks, whether it was homemade masks or surgical masks, that actually kept the containment in terms of transmission of COVID-19, and hence keeping the mortalities down. Another thing I wanted to touch upon was just make sure that, you preach basically like people taking showers. I know it's a little hard in third world countries because some places don't even have running water. But you want to preach as much hygiene as much as possible, washing clothes, that kind of stuff. One thing that I really want to talk about from the perspective of medicine is the immune system conversation. During times of stress, currently is where, and now it usually suppresses your viruses and other pathogens and whatnot. I want to start off with vitamins initially. And that is basically, I want to talk about just, people taking vitamins, people basically taking vitamin E and vitamin C. Vitamin E works in your blood. It's antioxidant. Vitamin C works in your gut, also helps with your immune system as well. Usually, there's different foods that you can get this from. Broccoli usually shows up from both of those: fish, cheese, oranges. Also, in the United States, at least, we have something called emergency, which is found over the counter at a pharmacy, but they're sold out. So if you can't find it, I just gave you some foods where you can get these vitamins from. Next that I want to talk about, and this is probably like the highlight of my conversation here, is these are stressful times, and how do we address that? Usually in the health industry, patients that have really strong support systems tend to recover faster. These patients usually have interactions with families and other people that they can, stand with and support with. So there's a couple of things, at least in New York, that's happening, and it's something that didn't happen before, and it's a nice thing that it is. So neighborhood walks are a huge thing right now. Like people, if it's a beautiful day, you go out for a walk. As long as you keep a safe distance, you keep a 6-foot distance between the person next to you, you should be able to do that. If it's a beautiful day, go outside, take some nature in, you hear birds chirping, it brings your stress levels down a little bit. Me personally, I've been watching comedy movies. I've literally been falling asleep laughing every night. That's my way of releasing stress. Some people, I'm sure, are doing yogas. Others want to work out. I like going to the gym. I can't anymore. So to me, it's comedy. Last but not least, that I want to talk about, that's social interaction. Yes, we're in a time where social distancing is the word. But at the same time, let's not forget about social interactions. Today, we live in a world where we have all kinds of technologies, such as Zoom, WhatsApp, we have FaceTime. I've been preaching this to anybody that reaches out to me, friends, fellows, old roommates, and even patients, through Doctors Without Borders. I preach this very often. I say, listen, like right now, because everyone is sitting at home and not very many people are working, this is the best time for everyone to call anyone and everyone. And you know what? Call that uncle of yours that you haven't spoken to in 6 months. Call your mom, call your pops, call your siblings, and put a smile on their face, because it will uplift them, it will uplift you. And what it will do is it will increase your immune system. And as that happens, you're in a much better position to be able to fight back against the virus, and you're less susceptible to the virus. I'm just going to close up on Doctors Without Borders here. So you can go to our website. It's doctorswithoutborders.org. And we're working in basically a lot of war-torn places as well as poverty-driven areas. One of the bigger ones that we're working on now basically is we have doctors that are currently working in Hong Kong, in Italy, in Greece, Syria, and South Africa. We're certainly trying to ramp up other initiatives in other countries as well. So if you guys have any doctors that are willing to volunteer their time, I'm sure everyone is very busy with the places that they're affiliated with, but anyone that has some spare time, go on our website, volunteer. Someone with some know-how in medicine is always something that we look forward to. With that, I want to thank you guys for this platform, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sadiki. I love that you touched upon, there's like this fear of not having enough hand sanitizer around, not having, these like medications, like, your pill vitamins. So I like that you gave us suggestions for food. I'm definitely drinking a lot of my teas, eating some oranges, getting in my greens, and reminding us that even in this time of social distancing, we have these technological advantages that can be, all of us are connecting right now. We can FaceTime our friends. There's a lot of fun apps out there where you can just get together and you can really recreate this laughter, because laughter is medicine. So I totally agree on that. So next we're going to move forward to Europe with Joanna Schwartz from Germany. Joanna, thank you. It's so nice to see you. It's been such a long time. Joanna,
yes,
a lot of
absolutely.
work for DGC, and she's helped us create some really great projects and been involved in other conferences. So it's really nice to have a fellow old friend with us.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for the lovely introduction, Roslani. Good afternoon from Germany. I wanted to briefly touch upon what Dr. Siddiqui just mentioned before. So I'm not a medical expert and I can't give you the medical perspective on why our cases are relatively high in Germany and we have a low mortality rate, but I do listen to our coronavirus podcast update every day, which is done by our top virologist in Germany. And he mentioned that one of the potential reasons, it's not yet clear, but one of the potential reasons could be that we have done a lot of testing very early on in the crisis. So we are relatively sure that we cover most or we know of most of the cases that we have in terms of coronavirus. So even those that do not develop strong symptoms and probably do not go to the hospital, but only to their doctor. We have done a lot of testing in the beginning of the coronavirus crisis. So that might be one of the reasons why we have a relatively low mortality rate also within Europe. And it is true that we have, or our government now started to recommend wearing masks when you are outside, especially when you go to do your grocery shopping. And it doesn't have to be a mask that you can buy, because obviously some of the more advanced masks should be kept for people that work in the healthcare system. So what we do is, or what I do is I wear my scarf, for example, so that's at least a little bit of protection that I could offer to people around me. Yeah, and then just, you know, regular ways of that you would also normally apply if you have a cold. So do not sneeze into your hands and wash your hands and stuff. But what I actually wanted to touch upon is what youth can do within this crisis. So I consider myself a climate activist and especially a youth advocate. So I advise the government as well as some of more international organizations on how they can foster youth participation. And when it comes to the coronavirus crisis, I would say that youth definitely has one of the biggest responsibilities in this crisis because of three perspectives, I would say, or 3 points. One, we are one of the groups that is most likely transmitting the virus without knowing it, because we as a group often do have the virus without having any symptoms. So we are the biggest transmitters. That is why we do need to stay at home. And there is no way around it. It might be a little boring and sometimes difficult to stay at home, and it's definitely stressful mentally, but we just all need to stay home. Then second, we are also, on the other hand, the ones that as a group do normally not have the or are not hit hardest. So the symptoms that we develop are normally relatively easy and we can cope with them quite well. So we can do the grocery shopping for more vulnerable groups of societies, for example, for your elderly neighbors or I don't know, your grandparents. So try to ensure that other people who are more vulnerable and more at risk are not facing or having to face that risk when doing essential shopping. And then 3, I think we are as young people, we are the group that is best connected and globally connected digitally anyway. So we have a lot of resources that we use day to day that we can also use within this crisis. And I want to give you an example that we did in Germany recently. We have a youth task force that is advising the government on how to do the digital transformation in Germany. And they, within 1 week, they came up with the idea of doing a hackathon that was called We versus Virus. And initially they thought about probably inviting a couple of, I don't know, 100 to 200 developers and coming up with ideas that would be great to follow to tackle the virus. And essentially they ended up having 46,000 people joining the hackathon, making it one of actually the biggest hackathon in history. And they worked together during 2 days and they developed 1,500 potential solutions on how to tackle the crisis, ranging from I don't know how apps that make neighborship help more easy, apps that target financing and liquidity issues for small and medium enterprises. And that was such a cool thing because no one expected that so many people would join and so many young people would join. And actually a really fun story on that is that they used Slack, and they had some troubles because they had to add 46,000 participants manually to the Slack channel, and it also crashed in between because it was the group was just too big. So the Slack founder, he actually jumped in with his team to ensure that all of the 46,000 people that joined the hackathon could actually work in teams. And I would honestly just encourage every one of you to consider coming up with equally cool ideas. And if you're not a developer, if you're not that digital savvy, there are still a lot of things that you can do. For example, people that now do have a lot of free time because they can't study or they can't go to school, just try to find a webinar or some cool stuff that you can join, educate yourself. There's, for example, a really good program that is called SDG Academy. It is offered by UN Environment and Columbia University, and they have free courses on topics such as climate change or sustainable natural resource management for peacekeeping, and it's free. And actually, honestly, just join it and make the most out of the time to get some skills, and that we can all apply once the crisis is over, and we can fully focus on, for example, tackling climate change, which remains the top priority globally.
Thank you so much, Joanna. You really covered so much, but I really appreciate how, you know, in this time, like a lot of us youth are feeling restless and we want to support our community, we want to do something, and you're covering the basics. We're checking in on our neighbors, we're making sure that those that aren't able or are more at risk at contracting the virus and like severely are having ways that we can support them by their grocery shopping and helping them whatever they have to do. But I really like the fact that this is a time for us to really stay at home. And like, you know, there's that analogy of that our grandparents had to go out to war, but like our war is like by staying indoors. And I'm really impressed by the 46,000 soldiers that Germany was able to pull together for this hackathon. It's beyond impressive. It just shows that we're resilient, that we're strong, that we're creative. And I think the world and even the UN now are realizing that youth, we have such capacity, we have so much potential, and we just need to be put out there and trusted that we can figure out the world moving, because we're moving in a digital way, we're moving in a technology-based route where we have to figure out how to do these things through the internet. So thank you so much, Joanna, for really touching upon these things and reminding us that our governments being on top of this and really working with the people and figuring out how to work together is how to create some great solutions. So with that, we're going to move on to Joyce Lee, the founder of Between from Singapore. Joyce, how are you today? Thank you for joining.
Yeah, so honored to be here and to meet all of you. Yes. Yeah, I think for Singapore, I think we're really, I'll just say we're really blessed to have a government that is very transparent. I think we, you know, from the start, we already knew that there was a lot of testing, there was a lot of transparency on the data. I think generally, the social capital is quite high in terms of the trust we have the government. I think that didn't come overnight, but just somehow over time. So I mean, speaking as a young person, I can say that it's really something you feel on the ground up. Obviously, it's not just something that we are, you know, saying because we our parents are saying, but I think generally we do know that the government has the best interest at heart for the young people. On the other hand, I think there's a lot of good initiatives from the ground up. So although technically we're not really on a lockdown, but right now there's obviously a lot of measures in place. You know, there's chairs that are being marked out So if you go to a cafe, you'll find that, yeah, all the way down to like chairs being having tape over them. And yeah, and Singaporeans are really following by the rules, as we're not gathering in groups that are more than 10. But I think generally behind the law, I think a lot of times is really what's the spirit behind it. You know, a lot of times, you know, we initially might have been, yeah, driven by fear, or like we need to, you know, because of the social backlash. So there's been quite a bit when, you know, people start gathering, even though it's less than 10, but there have been Facebook posts going around saying, hey, you know, yeah, you might be thinking you're just going for a friend's birthday, you know, but I'm a frontline healthcare staff and this is how it affects me. So I think it's great that just beyond what the government is doing, a lot of ground up, you know, post social media sentiment is going around, you know, from the people to the people as well. I think that's definitely a lot more, yeah, it comes across a lot more authentic. And I think, yeah, generally when for those who really understand definitely how that impacts those we live with. I think Singapore is a bit of a unique situation where most young people stay with their parents until they're married, because of a bit of a housing shortage. I mean, we have here. So usually people move out, and also of cultural norms, you know, when they're married. So because of that, I think there obviously tends to be a very close-knit family unit. And because of that, we have to be very conscious of, you know, whenever we go out with our friends, we think we're young, you know, we have a good immunity, but oftentimes we live with parents who are older, and even grandparents. So quite a number of my friends actually still stay with their grandparents under the same roof, and they're already like in the late 20s. So I think it's quite common, and because of that, I think it actually brings us, makes us more aware, yeah, that we're really connected across the generations. And that our actions really do impact, it could impact our friend's grandmother, you know, if I go hang out with my friend for a harmless coffee, because they all stay together. So I think, you know, being in such a society where, yeah, like it's, we live in such close proximity to different generations also makes us more aware. Yeah, I think, yeah, I think from the ground up, there's a lot of interesting things that are happening. In addition to, of course, the government being, there's quite a couple of grants for like small businesses. And for myself, running a small business myself, creative agency, I think I've seen firsthand how a lot of my clients, which are actually, you know, small F&Bs, their cafes and so on, they all had to let go of staff. It's quite common. Even though strictly there's no lockdown, but just the social impact of, you know, people not wanting to go out. But what's heartwarming is that there's actually this Facebook group that was just started organically. It's actually like a COVID support group for freelancers and cultural and creative gigs. So for people who are, you know, self-employed, there's actually a lot of ground up support. People who have small businesses actually opening up saying, hey, you know, I may have this gig open. People who, you know, are posting saying, I don't, you know, I just lost. So there's actually a cute website that started up. It's called I Lost My Gig.sg. So people are actually just sharing like, you know, signing up if they lost their job. And on the other hand, small businesses who happen to have maybe a small ad hoc openings actually putting up, you know, saying they can help. So I think it's really great that this is happening, and it happened really just ground up. Yeah, I think for myself, I think in even in a small business, one interesting innovative way that's emerging is actually with some of the small businesses I'm partnering with, is actually do a barter trade. So I find that it's quite interesting because I mean right now, you know, businesses think that they can't really afford at this point to do any marketing, for example. They can't afford to expand. But on the contrary, I think it's actually a great opportunity for them to find ways to actually give back. So quite a number of these small businesses are actually doing like, you know, how they can help healthcare staff, you know, bring free food or drinks and deliver them to the hospitals. So I think it's just amazing. At the same time, obviously, it helps these businesses, of course, in their positioning. So I think there's just a bit of a win-win barter thing going on. So I've also found that a lot of volunteers right now have been roping in a few volunteers to help with, you know, simple things like doing social media for a cafe, helping to design a poster, helping to do a bit of like copywriting, helping to do these things, and to help the small businesses in exchange for growth, for training, to build their portfolio. So I'm seeing a trend that even though they may not necessarily be paid the market rate, but personally, I'm quite involved in wanting to also mentor and help these youths to grow in their digital skills during this period of time. So I think it's very encouraging, and I think on the social media front, there's a lot of people who are sending encouraging Instagram stories. They are just sharing like, oh hey, send an encouragement, or like what can we do to help this cute for example, there was a recent news of someone who lost his job. It's an elderly uncle, and basically a cafe just said, for every delivery that you help us, you get $1. I mean, these are really ground up, not really that scalable, but you see it popping up here and there, and like news of little acts of kindness. So I think what young people can do in Singapore is actually take this time to kind of rest as well. We're known as a country that cannot relax, and even when we have free time, we just have to be productive all the time. So I think a great way to see this is to take this time, not to focus on the fear, but really focus on loving people around us, taking time off, to reflect, taking time off to do what we want to do when we normally don't have that permission because of the way our society is run, that's so fast paced. So that's
thanks so much, Joyce. I definitely hear that, and it's interesting how, because I live in the Bronx, so like it's a very intergenerational community as well. So a lot of the times I live with my parents too, so it's not only thinking about myself, but I'm thinking about how can someone infect me and infect like my mother and my father at a little bit of elderly age. And it's really nice to see that people are supporting each other by volunteering to do the social media campaigns, by assisting the small businesses that are really doing the most to just like supply food for Medicare workers, supply free food for children that we're seeing here in my locality, giving out free school lunch. So it's just great that we're going above and beyond and finding ways that we can help each other, even though we're maintaining physical social distance. So it's really cool to see that your part of Singapore mirrors my little corner of the Bronx, and like how we're so apart, but like how we're on the same exact page. Thank you so much for that, Joyce. And now next we're going to hear from, we're Zhaoning Liu, founder of Viva la Vida from China. Zhaoning, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here tonight. And hello, everyone from all over the world. This is Xiaoning from Beijing, and I literally just got through my 14 days of quarantine after I fled back from New York to Beijing. So I'm the founder of Viva la Vida, and we are a global organization that encourages people to use art to share their personal stories. I think this is actually a quite tough time for everyone, not only people who are directly affected by COVID-19, but also just every one of us who are quarantined home. I remember when I was in Berlin during the Chinese New Year Eve, that was end of January. I can't even enjoy the holiday at all because I was just looking at my phone all the time to check if the number increased in China. I remember when I was in Europe, I was wearing a mask on the subway and people looking at me as if I was the virus. I remember during my quarantine time in Beijing, just in the past 2 weeks, I just felt so lonely and stressful. So I think the whole situation actually creates much anxiety and pressure on our mental health. And I do think as young people, we're able to do more than just sitting in our home and reading news. So I'm not going to talk about personal hygiene and social distancing part, as the previous speakers have already touched upon that, but I'm going to discuss my thought of how I think young people can respond to this pandemic from a perspective of art and creativity, as that's what my organization have been doing for many years. I think quarantine can confine our physical activities, but it cannot limit our ability for art to keep our spirit up. I think art empowers us to imagine, to perceive the difficult reality through a different lens. And I think we as young people from all over the world during this very difficult time, we can actually use art as an instrument to record what we're going through, what we're thinking, and what we're feeling, to create something more spiritual for people that you want to show love and respect and gratitude to. By saying art, I don't mean artwork from very professional artists, but just art from us, like ordinary people. I think it can be a simple drawing, a short paragraph of your story during this time, a light poem, a song that you sing, a photo that you take, just really anything that represents your thoughts, your feeling, and your experience during this time. I think it will be a process of doing some creative work, but also a very good healing process. As we know, art can be healing for people too, and also a gift for those frontline fighters that we want to show gratitude for. And I believe if a lot of us is doing this, then that will also form a collective database and a portfolio that rates this part of the history by the creativity of us young people, and kind of become a spiritual refuge for every one of us during this crisis. Instead of just, schooling up and down at our phone and looking at all those numbers and cases, I think we can do something more. So actually, a group of us young leaders from all over the world, we're planning to initiate a campaign, #ArtDefeatCovid-19, to just call for young people's creativity and artwork from all over the world during this quarantine time to form a collective artwork of the whole world, just to, read the history in another form. And we want to invite those young leaders, who echo with this idea to become just a co-host of this campaign, and encourage people around you to be part of this movement. You can definitely talk to me on Facebook if you are interested. And also besides that, because China has been through this pandemic at the very beginning, we do also have some experience of the way we can fight for this. And because I've always been involving with a lot of people from different countries, and currently I'm helping people from different countries, especially those government and some business, if they want to purchase some of the personal protective equipment, including the mask and all those different things. So let me know if you need those things, because I've already established a system for people to get those imports and exports, just in case your country needs that. And I think, yeah, that's it. Thank you very much for having me here tonight.
Thank you so much, Xiaoning. That was so amazing. It's so true that this time it is mentally straining for all of us to be stuck at home, to not have our support communities around us, to not be able to hug. I miss hugging my friends so much. But I'm so glad you reminded us of the magic and the power of arts and creativity, and how this is a time where there's so much, there's things lying around at home that we can use to be creative. There's the writing of poetry, and the creation of art is just a great way to express those things that are difficult to put words on, that convey feeling, that others without language can understand what you're also going through. And I think it's just so amazing, the idea of being able to capture this point in history through an artistic interpretation, because then it's like our way of rewriting history, because we know sometimes books don't always get that right. So it's nice that we're taking control of the way that we're addressing things. But now, just to keep going forward, we're gonna talk to Mohammed Bahrekba from Call of Culture. He's talking to us from Saudi Arabia, representing the Middle East. Mohammed, welcome. The floor is yours.
Hi, thank you very much for having me. Good afternoon to everyone. I'm very glad to see all of my friends who are healthy and talking to us from around the world. I will tap into what's happening in Saudi Arabia and how youth are actually contributing to coping COVID-19. Well, first of all, as you know, Saudi Arabia has a very special spiritual position in a lot of the Muslims' life due to the holy mosques. And perhaps the government of Saudi Arabia have did precaution steps very early in February to contain and to make sure that the virus is not spread in Saudi Arabia. So one of the very important things have been done is to close down the religious trips for some time. And the importance of this, actually, because we have the holy month of Ramadan, it's coming by the end of April. So it's very important to make sure that everyone in Saudi Arabia and those who are coming from around the world, not to go into an area, the holy mosque, which can accommodate around 1 million people at the same time. So it's very good to have good precaution steps very early in time. So we make sure that the virus does not spread for people around the world and people in Saudi Arabia. Well, however, an update day before yesterday, they actually allowed few people, up to 50 people only, to go into the Holy Mosque in Mecca, which is a sign that the number of occupancy for the virus is getting less in Saudi, which is very good and helpful. However, what we do at Call of Culture, concerned about culture and human behavior, we have started a research, social behavior research, to understand how people actually communicating and interacting with each other, and how the COVID-19 have actually changed the behavior of people. So we did research, and we actually now kind of at the end of this research, I would invite some of you guys, if interested, to participate in the questionnaires. We'll be happy to send you the link so you can give us insights on what's happening from your micro level as an individual, but also at the city level. What has been happening here as initiatives in Saudi Arabia, very interesting things. Of course, just like any other youth around the world, the media or the social media is one of the drives for the culture. So there have been a lot of online courses, positive vibes through online partying and helping charity. There's also now kind of initiatives by the states, like to help people who are in need. Also, the government have did a good job when it comes to engage the people in the rescue or the emergency plan, in the sense of providing the goods, make sure that the goods prices are not going high, the medical supplies are available. Hostel services were open for quarantine for people who are coming from abroad. Actually, some of the youth have been doing yoga classes online. Some people have been working on workshops online, which is very interesting. But one of the very important things that some of you guys have mentioning, that the mental health of social distancing is very important. And what we have done, we have some social work, like businesses as entrepreneurs. We do offer, we have like roses and smarter roses last for a couple of years. So we provided discounts for the roses because we believe the rose is one of the drives that help people to put a smile on their faces. So we made discounts for these roses so people can actually buy the roses and give them for their mothers or their family. I think solidarity is very important at this time, helping each other, but also helping others who are in need, helping your friends to go through this time. This is what we want. And I think what's good about COVID-19, with all the sad things happened around the world, that people have actually came close to each other. And we have shown how kind and how we as human can actually coexist and live with each other and support. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mohammed, for those remarks. I definitely taken a yoga class. It's nice I could take breaks. No one can see me when I'm stopping and going back to the baby pose. But I think it's really smart that Saudi Arabia went ahead and unfortunately canceled the spiritual journey, the Hajj, for a lot of people. I know that's very important, and that was really big news around the world. But I think times like this, health comes precedent to completing, certain religious obligations. But I know it's exciting that they opened it up again. It's exciting that people are going out to the streets, and streets meaning virtual streets. That's what I'm referring to. I call them streets out here. So, but yeah, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. Now, next we have Geraldine Pomaro Kalisek from founders of Wiki Mujeres. Geraldine, are you with us?
Hi. So I'm not Geraldine, but I guess I'm gonna talk on her behalf because she did have a little problem. So I just wanted to touch on very briefly. Geraldine founded the largest women community, digital women community in Latin America. It's called Wiki Mujeres. And she has like a representation of the group in every basically country on Latin America. She wanted to talk especially about, with the whole quarantine and the COVID-19 crisis. The community has been a very important space, but also it has shown, let's say, like a side problem, and is the rising of woman violence within the household. Women are they're being held into the quarantine most of these times with the perpetrator. So we have seen a large increase of violence within the home, and especially against women. So it's important not only to have all of these measurements and whatnot, but also to Hello? I think I got lost for a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, so she especially wanted to speak about this whole panoramic with women's violence, and just it's something that is a consequence of what we're living right now, but it's not as talked about. Talking about locally in Colombia, we have seen an increase of 30% of women violence cases, related cases, involving the police, involving psychological abuse, physical abuse, and even economical abuse. So it's something that we cannot miss or mislead, letting be shut by the whole crisis, but we also do have to keep moving forward with encouraging women to speak for themselves, and especially don't have to be held with their perpetrator of their abuse.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, for those remarks in regard to Geraldine. I do know that being all of us quarantined sometimes in small physical locations can really bring up everyone's past traumas and stresses. And I do know, I also work really closely with domestic violence, so I do know that the rise is unfortunate, is upon us. And I know in New York City and the States, we have an organization called A Call to Men, that it's men working against domestic violence. So it's definitely something that it's not often spoken about, but hopefully these kinds of issues do come more to light. And finally, our final speaker, coming to us all the way from Nigeria, Olumide Idowu, co-founder and CEO of International Climate Change Development Initiative. Olumide, you got 3 minutes because we're severely over time. Give us some of your thoughts.
Okay, thank you very much. I really appreciate this opportunity once again, because let me first of all appreciate also let me call them my senior colleague, my friend. I've actually shared 1 or 2 things from different continents, which is something that we are all looking towards to make sure that we have one voice, one idea, and one solution to this COVID-19 pandemic that is actually going on. So coming down to Africa, I am the co-founder of International Climate Change Development Initiative. And basically what we do is to amplify the voice of young people and to engage them in innovative volunteerism. Let me quickly mention that there are a lot of activities, a lot of opportunities, a lot of increased point that young people are actually taking in Africa. There are numerous opportunities, there are numerous initiatives and innovation that has been coming up just because of this pandemic that is going around. And a lot of young people have been using their voices to actually advocate for news that will not make people to get fear or scared about the pandemic and issues and all. One of the things that I really appreciate most is the project that just a call that just came up through the African Union, through the office, the African Union Office of the Youth Envoy, which is actually focused on Oslo. They actually, in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, they have remained committed to advocate for contribution and a central role for young people to reform different kind of institutions and to transform the system to work for the generation of young people. And this idea is to gather different young people from different countries in Africa to start looking at how can we send the right message concerning what is going on when it comes to this the global issue that we are seeing in everywhere. And coming down specifically to my country, I will tell you that what we actually are advocating for as young people is for us to actually be informed, and we need to ensure that we inform others on what is actually going on and how young people can also take lead by informing people the right information on how to, tap into their social distancing, washing your hands regularly, and making sure that you don't send those wrong messages out, because these are the things that is actually making people not to understand the precaution that is going on. And also, we're also taking actions in different communities, because we see a lot of vulnerable people that are going through this lockdown. Because I'm talking to you today marks the third day we are locked down in Nigeria, especially in Lagos, Ogun, and Abuja. And these are the very big top city in Nigeria, that a lot of businesses, a lot of markets are going on. A lot of private sectors are actually losing a lot of. But what we are looking at now is that we need to start, young people have started taking action in their local communities and making sure that this issue of vulnerable people that needs relief materials. So there are a lot of global fundraising that is going on, both from the government, from the civil society, from youth networks that are putting things together to make sure that we are actually able to reduce this, and looking forward to solutions to it. And also, we're also looking at how we can speak to ensure that all organizations are taking responsibility. If you are, for some young people are not actually into environmental issues or into climate change, a lot of them are in different issues, but this issue of COVID-19 is something that is affecting every nook and cranny of the continent. And with this, we also call on civil society organizations that they should also start taking action in making sure that they send the right and good message out there. Then one of the things, again, we are doing concerning my education is to also ensure all families, because household by household, that's how we can send the message out. So young people are making sure that they go through each household before, so that they can understand the essence of them having social distancing, washing their hands regularly, and taking precautions on how they can help us, how we can help the government to actually help us to trace those people that have already have contact with the initial incident, the initial people that have been isolated. So we are doing that to make sure that every young people can also go from household to household to make sure that they do this contribution and talks about this. And one thing again is that volunteering is something that is very powerful, and which young people across Nigeria, across Africa have been doing. And I personally call for more volunteers to please use your social media, use your on digital platform to send the right messages, to send the right information, so that other people can learn and can also adapt and take precaution. Because this is not a one person's problem, this is a global problem, and it's also an African problem. And to end it all, I would say that we are also seeking that a lot of programs around accountability and transparency, which an organization in Nigeria is also focusing on. They're looking how they can, follow the funds that have been given into the government, to the government to actually meet this pandemic and the issue that's going on. So we are looking forward to make sure that, and we have an organization have been doing it to make sure that they follow all the money, all the funds that have been going out there, to make sure that this money actually going to the right health equipment and going to the right vulnerable people, so that all the younger people, disabled, children living with disability can also get from. So that is what we are doing in across Africa, and that's what is actually happening in my country. We have been in a lockdown for the past 3 days now, and we are still going to 14 days. And I'm also using this opportunity to tell other young people across the world that let us start telling ourselves the right information, because that will actually help us to get the need for us to actually respond to what is going on. And we should understand that this cause is a fight for all of us, not just for one person. Thank you very much.
Hi, thank you, Olumide. I was talking to myself apparently. I just want to say that thank you for reminding us that it's CSO's responsibility now that we're the ones on the grassroots, we're the ones in our own localities to figure out ways to collaborate with others for fundraising purposes, for the sharing of physical resources, but most importantly, and something that the UN is really championing right now, is to eliminate misinformation. There's a lot of things out there, a lot of fake solutions, and some people, some governments are saying wrong things out, wrong medications and things like that. But it's important for us to go to these resources, to go to the UNDGC Civil Society Unit. They have a page on COVID-19. The World Health Organization has a page also on COVID-19. The Secretary's Envoy on Youth, she also has some coverage on. Thank you for reminding us that. Yeah, so just make sure to just go to the links that are here in the bottom. There'll be some links also in the chat, but just stay tuned on the UN page in general. There'll be a lot of scientifically accredited, appropriate, accurate resources for us to share. That's the only way that we could really keep ourselves safe. So now I'm going to pass it over to Steve. Steve, we're a little over time, but what are we gonna do right now?
Great. So thank you everyone for those beautiful reflections and perspectives from all around the world and all of those resources that were just shared verbally. I'd like to invite everyone now into breakout rooms. We provided an opportunity for everyone participating to kind of share their experiences with each other, but because of the size of our team and everyone present, we're not able to have everyone share in a public 100-person call, but rather we're going to split everyone into 10 rooms. So you can have 10 people in each breakout room. And then once you're in there, just feel free to take initiative and share your name, your country, your organization, and 1 or 2 sentences about how you've been responding to COVID-19. And then we'll give about 10 minutes in those breakout rooms, after which we'll close it, bring it back to this space. While you're in the breakout groups, one thing that we're asking each person to do is if you have any resources that you'd like to share, whether those are links or URLs or anything related to coping strategies related to how you deal with social isolation and social distancing, to please type that up in the chat. And then when you return from the breakout rooms, to paste that in the general chat so everyone can have access to that. Additionally, if you'd like to continue to stay engaged with us, we're going to post our little email into the broad general chat as well. That way we can all stay in touch with each other. So at this time, I will now go ahead and put us into breakout rooms, and we can go ahead and start the conversation. So once again, it's name, organization, and then what you are doing to respond to COVID-19. And the breakout groups are now open. You should see it on your screen. You go ahead and click that, and I'll see you all later.
Hello to everybody.
Hi, Delton. You are in breakout group 1, so you should see an invite to join the breakout groups. If you want to click the Zoom button, it should bring you into your small group discussion space.
You say in one.
Say that again?
I don't see the invite.
Okay, let me try to invite you again. All right, Delton should be in. Let's see, group 1. We got group 1. Okay. Everyone should be okay. Does anyone else have problems joining breakout rooms? If you do, just let me know. I can move you in. Dilwar, I see your hands raised. Is there something you'd like to, you feel free to unmute yourself right now.
Yeah, thank you. And can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, great. Thank you for having me today at this great platform. I just want to share my thoughts about what is going on in this situation here in Iraq. My name is Dilwar, and I'm the founder and CEO of Kurdistan Development Goals Foundation. Our work is on sustainable development goals. We are working
Dilwar,
to have this. Yes.
Maybe I'll share with you. Right now we're in breakout rooms. Do you see a button that will take you into your breakout rooms? Right now, there's not that many people present in the main room. We've split into the smaller rooms for this exact purpose of sharing. Do you see a button for you to go into your breakout room?
Oh, but there's not so much people there in the room.
It should just be, your breakout room is, let's see, you should be room number 2. Do you see that?
Nothing there is available. I don't know.
Let me put you, let me see what I can do for you. Give me 1 second, okay?
Okay.
2, breakout. Try again. Do you see an option to join a breakout room? Beautiful. And then Mutar, you had your hand raised as well? Okay, if not, that's fine. Aishu, did you want to test tech for your segment?
Thank you, Steve. In a few minutes, yes, as soon as upon the conclusion, yes, then we'll be ready to go for the demonstration.
Aishu, I mean, do you want to start sharing your screen or anything to prepare?
Oh, yes, sorry. I will be sharing my video within the next 2 minutes. Then we'll be all good to, we'll be set.
Okay.
Yes, sorry. Thank you very much.
Aishu.
Yes, Steve.
So in a second, I'll introduce you and the Mind, Body, Soul presentation you're doing with the Great Gate. Is there anything language-wise you want me to include there?
No, thank you. I think for now we should be fine. So,
Okay.
and then yes.
And you're just asking people to join you in this activity, yeah?
If you could, yes, just they'll be joining along, and it's a simple form with steps. So 2 times I'll do it.
Okay, beautiful.
Thank you. I wasn't sure this was recorded. That's why I didn't speak.
Yeah, it's recorded right now.
And thank you. Thank you so much, Steve.
Yeah, of course.
See, suddenly the wind, it went back a little.
Yeah, it's a little bit big, but you got this.
All good. Thank you.
Welcome back, everyone. So we're gonna give it a minute for everyone to come back from the breakout rooms, and then we'll go ahead and jump into our next section of our conversation.
Hey, Rustam, how are you?
Thank you, Steve. My group is back.
Hey.
I see a lot of familiar faces.
Yeah, it's
Actually, you're looking good with that.
That's right.
Aishu!
All right, beautiful. So our breakout rooms are now closing, and everyone should be slowly filtering back in to our conversation here.
Yeah. Steve, don't forget to let them know to join, like, to retweet some of our stuff, from Twitter and.
Sure. Yeah. No problem.
Thank you guys from Group 8. That was a nice conversation, and we look forward to helping ourselves better towards the fight.
We should. Oh, I don't know what time that is. You better check. I think you're leaving this.
All right. So I will go ahead and I hope everyone had a good breakout group. As a small reminder, if you have your name, organization, country, and some resources that you'd like to share with the group, I'd invite you to put that in the chat box. So we've been having a lot of conversation about our response to COVID, and one thing that we know is particularly important is our own mental well-being. And one of the linkages we have to mental well-being is physical well-being. So we wanted to invite our good friend Aishu from Medical Women's International Association to take us through an interactive physical exercise that we'd welcome you to join us with. It's a couple of forms that will be repeated twice, and I'll go ahead and unmute her and invite her to take us through this small activity that links our mind, body, and soul. Aishu.
Thank you very much, Steve. Greetings, everybody, from Pleasant Valley, New York, United States of America. I am Aisha Narasimha Devra, and I'm a youth representative to Medical Women's International Association, which is an NGO that focuses on achieving gender equality in the field of medicine. I am right now in the driveway of our house, and today we would like to practice one form in martial arts. Now, I practice Tang Soo Do, which is a South Korean style of martial arts. The form today that we will practice is known as Do-moon, the Great Gate in Korean, which is part of a series form known as Yukro that focuses on your inner well-being and having the mind and the balance between the mind and body. And we wanted to do this little exercise with all of you so that way you'll have the chance to stay active. As you know, now it's more than important, more than ever, it's important to stay active as we are all in quarantine mode. So now please feel free to join along with me if you have the space. Now I will be explaining the form step by step. We will repeat it 2 times as Steve mentioned. Now, if you are able to do this, try to stand in the neutral position with your feet apart, feet apart, shoulder width length. And this position is known as chumbi. So that means the ready stance. You're ready for anything. Now, once again, the name of this form is Dumu in Korean, which means the great gate. So this form is very good for stretching all the different muscle groups in your body and also opening up your mind. So hopefully we'll be able to practice this together. And in case if you're not able to do it now, but you would like to practice this form later, please do view the recording on our social media channels. So let's begin. So now, Chumbi Jase, which means ready stance in Korean. The terminology I'm using is in Korean, as this is in Tang Soo Do, which again originates from South Korea. Now, the first move is bring your hands to your left hip, with both your hands in a fist position, and then bring them up to your face with your, so this means that you are ready, and we'll begin. So now your left hand is open with your right hand in a fist-like position. The first step is you're stepping out you're stepping out towards the left. So first step out towards the left and then twist your arms, both in a fist-like position. The purpose of this is to stretch the entire body, similar to a lot of other forms such as yoga and tai chi. Next, bring the arm all the way above your head, cover your fist, bring it up towards the middle part of your body and push the energy down. And, apologies if the video quality is not the best, but please feel free to refer to this at your convenience. Next, again, bringing your hands up and down and bringing up the energy and pushing it outside. Now, with your right leg, you're going to kick and block with the left. And even if, again, you're not able to do so, fear not, as this will be recorded. So you're kicking, and then again, you're striking with both hands, and again, twisting your body, bringing your arm all the way up and above, pushing the energy out, then again, cultivating the energy up again, and then pushing out. Now, I know it's a little difficult to do this via video, but still, hopefully you can get the gist of what the movements are. Now, next step, you're going to bring your right foot back, out above, and your left hand is blocking. All right, with your your left hand is out, your right hand, both hands in a fist position to your right hip. And next, you're going to do punching, and even if though my back is facing you, you're still doing a punch. Then next, coming up again, blocking again with the right. So from this position, you're going to do the same position as before. Out with the right hand, left hand to the hip, and middle punch. Middle punch. All right? Now next, you're going to change the stance of your body, facing towards the left side, and your left hand that is open comes up above with your left knee bent and your right hand in a fist-like position, so you're blocking all the different body parts. All right? Next, you're going to step out with the right foot into a low block and all the blocks in a fist position, just showing you for demonstrative purposes. Then next, you're going to, again, punch the left and say, kick, kick. So you're exhaling and releasing all that energy. So now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. This form is symmetrical. So all the movements we did on this side, we're gonna do it on the other side. So ready? You're facing towards the left side. Left hand is out, both hands in a fist. Right hand is to your hip. Now turning out. And again, opening your arms out wide, stretching them out. Bring the right hand up, covering your fist, bringing all the energy and releasing all of it. Then once again, you're gathering all the energy from the earth and then again, pushing it out. So now like we did on the other side, kick with your left leg and your right hand is blocking. So one, with your left hand and your fist, and then again, strike, strike. Then bringing the arm all the way up, you'll feel the stretch in the back, bringing up, releasing the energy. Once again, bringing up, and then releasing all the energy. Now you're going to be facing onto it, and we're again going to right, we're going towards the right side. So up, with the right foot up in front, the right, both hands in a fist-like position, right hand on front, left hand to your waist, and then one, punch, and again, the same position, bringing back, blocking with the left, right hand at your hip, and then step and punch with the right, step and punch with the right, and then now shifting your gear towards the right side, bringing your right hand up and left hand in a fist-like position with your right foot in front, bending in front, step out with the left and low block with both hands in a fist-like position, and then punch, tap with the right leg. And then that brings us back to Paro, which is the end. So always, again, all these terms are in Korean. So we will do it once more. We'll do it a little faster due to time constraints. Anytime, please feel free to see this video recording for your reference, and please feel free to also contact us. And I will also be providing a link to this video upon the conclusion of the chat. So once more, we'll do it very quickly. Jumbi position, we'll do a little faster in the interest of time. Bringing your hands to your right side, and then bringing your hands up out this way. Attack, then above, releasing the energy, grabbing the energy again, releasing it, kick with the right, again, striking with both hands, up and above with your right hand, bringing the energy up, releasing it, again, gathering the energy from the earth and releasing it. Block, strike, block, strike, strike, block, yep. Same thing the other way. One, up and above, gathering the energy, kick, block, strike, strike, up and above, gathering energy, release, gathering energy from the earth, release, block, punch, block, punch, block, block, tap, and burrow. So apologies if it was a little fast, but please feel free again to see this recording at your convenience, and I will also be sending a YouTube link for more information. So we hope that you will have the opportunity to do any of the exercise forms you've been trying to do. You can even try the style of martial arts that I'm practicing, Hang Sudo, and we hope that you continue to stay well. Gomapsimida, thank you very much in Korea. Steve, I pass the floor back to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Aishu. That was beautiful. I like stood up and turned off my camera and I was doing all the moves. I don't think I did it perfect, but I got my mind, body, and soul linked up together for that chunk of my time.
Thank you, I'm glad.
I love that this is now a resource that we can share, and I continue to welcome people to come back to this space to look at the moves and relearn them and just add a little bit of that rejuvenation into your life. With this, I'm now going to pass over the mic to Rose Lenny for some closing remarks.
Hi, thank you, Aishu, so much for sharing with us that special Korean art form. I didn't stand up, but I did a lot of the stretching, and I do feel that my muscles are more relaxed. And I'm grateful for Valentina, who is an intern at UNDGC. She's been a huge resource for us, and she put together this amazing slideshow for me to read from to make my job a lot easier. I just want to say thank you all, everyone, for joining us here today. We had some amazing speakers. We heard from multiple corners of the world, and we're definitely seeing that the importance of accurate scientific information. We're seeing the importance of maintaining a physical social distancing from each other, but definitely honing in on technology in order to create connection, create community, and to create solutions. So I just wanted to highlight this page really briefly. The United Nations Civil Society page has some great information on COVID-19, along with the Secretary General's envoy on youth. Yesterday, Jayathma held an event regarding mental health. So I would recommend following them on Twitter and other social media platforms. Also, the World Health Organization has been great at really providing information and live, accurate updates from all around the world. And UNICEF gives us some great resources for people that have children at home that are finding a hard time to occupy the children's time and to make sure that everyone's well informed. I just want everyone that's still online to just smile briefly to the camera so we can take a group shot of us that have made it through this long but amazing conference. If you could turn on your cameras and you want to say smile, and someone on the other side is going to take the photo. So on the count of 3, everyone. 1, 2, 3, cheese.
Cheese.
Great. And I heard we have a special guest with us who's going to close us off in song. My good friend Lamborghini, who joined us in Salt Lake City for the CSO conference and has been doing amazing work regarding incarcerated individuals, but he's also a fantastic artist, and I definitely recommend checking out his music. So Lamborghini, the floor is yours, my brother.
Woo! Thank you, guys. Thank you. I just want to say I'm very proud of everyone that came out today, and the song you're about to hear will be officially released next week. We're officially releasing the song next week all over the world to encourage people in this time of crisis. So this is United Nations. Listen. Ole, ole. Are you ready?
Yes.
Woo!
I'm not leaving without you. Don't you leave without me. We are shine bright together like the stars in the sky. If I fall, please pick me up. 'Cause if you fall, I'll pick you up. We are stronger together. We are one forever. 'Cause I am you, and you and me. Together we are United Nations. I am you, you and me. Together we are United Nations. I am you, you and me. Together we are United Nations. I am you, you and me. Together we are United. Everybody. La 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 la. Clap your hands, everybody. Let's go. 2.
La la la
Hey.
la la la
La la la la la. Everybody, let's go. Hey. Oh, in the jungle. Hold on to. So featuring my very good friend of mine, Korede Bello from Nigeria. Let's go. Everybody. Put your hands up. Woo, woo, woo. Another brotherhood. Can I see your hands in the air, everybody? I am you, you are me. Together we are
United
Nations. Together. I am you, you are me. Together we hold on. I have to stop the music. Hold on, we have to sing this. Everybody unmute your microphone and I want to hear you scream. Scream!
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
Some of us failed music.
We're going to sing it together right now. Are you guys ready? Unmute your microphone. Everybody unmute your mic. Let us shake the whole world together right now. Are you ready?
Ready.
Ready.
Let's do this.
1,
Ready.
2, 3, go. I am you.
You are you.
Together we are United Nations. I am you and me. Together we are United Nations.
I hear you scream. Well, God bless you all. God bless you all. God bless you all.
Thank you so much for singing for us. Thank you.
Next week, this song is going to be out next week. It's called United Nations. We're releasing it officially next week. And by the grace of God, we just want this song to impact everyone all over the world in this time of crisis. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Love the
Together
song.
we are United Nations.
Thank you. Good luck. Amazing song. Loved it.
Thank you. Thank
You are
you.
what an experience. Thank
Very
you.
nice. Very nice.
The song is nice. Just put it online.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, that's the channel we download it.
Yeah, I'm gonna send it. I'm gonna send it to the WhatsApp group, and
Yeah,
we're gonna
that is
send it
important.
so everybody can share it. You can share it with all your network. We just want this song to bring hope to everyone across the world right now.
Thank you so much, Lamborghini. And thank you, everybody, for being on the call.
Thank you.
Can we hear from everybody online if you'd like us to do this again? Thumbs up?
Yes.
Please.
So definitely, we're always looking for people to help us put it together. So thank all the participants. I want to thank all the speakers.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I especially want to thank the Department of Global Communications Youth Reps and the Youth Steering Committee. Let's hear it for them. And let's hear it for the moderators. Awesome. So I'll pass the last word back to Rosleni to close shop.
Howard, there's nothing else I can say, but thank you guys, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much,
Bye, everybody.
Bye,
everyone.
Be well.
Thank you.
Stay well.
Okay, take care. Bye. Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Hey, take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Great job, everyone.
Great job. And nobody's getting off.
To be the last one.
Well, there's free space.
I want to be the last.
So I'm actually gonna stop the recording. Oh, I hope I was recording this. Oh, I'll be in trouble.
No, you didn't record it at all, Hava.
No, I did in the beginning, and
it's gonna be saved on Facebook anyways.
yes, it is. So it's great. But really,
Okay.
thank you so much. A lot of people were working behind the scenes to put this together. So we have a lot of lessons learned, and definitely, I think in our next call we'll do our best to find a way where we can hear more from the people who are connected, because it was a bit difficult just to have so many people speaking. So if you have any ideas, please put it on the chat, and we're very happy to, do another call as soon as possible. You're probably hearing my other apps. I have so many programs going on.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. I'm just waiting for everybody to sign off. That's why I don't want to cut you guys until people sign off.
All right, bye.
Olumide, how are you? How's
Bye,
Nigeria?
Have a good day.
Nigeria is good. We are locked down, man. All will be
Awesome.
fine.
I see Caroline also from Pakistan. How are you? Maybe she signed off already. I saw her a second ago. Cristobal from Nigeria, from Kenya. My good friend, how come you're only connecting now? Wow, only 8 hours difference. Cristobal, I see you. How come you're just connecting now? We're just closing shop.
Bye, Hawa. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you so much. See you again.
See you. Bye.